Welcome to your Shadow channel. Now we will tell another chilling horror story. Tonight, we delve into the 3 true horror stories about haunted car park stories. Are you ready to get scared? Let's begin. The first story is about the Phantom Valet of Verdun Drive in the heart of the city. In the heart of the city, where the neon lights flickered and the streets buzzed with life, there existed a multi-story car park on Verdun Drive. By day, it was a mundane place, a concrete labyrinth where commuters parked their vehicles and hurried off to work. But by night, when the moon hung low and shadows stretched across the asphalt, the car park transformed into something altogether different. Verdun Drive's Phantom Valet was a legend whispered among those who dared to venture there after dark. The valet was said to be an enigmatic figure, an old man in a faded uniform, complete with brass buttons and a peaked cap. His face was etched with wrinkles, and his eyes held a sorrowful glimmer. No one knew his name, but everyone recognized him by the way he moved, the grace of a seasoned professional, even in death. The first sighting occurred decades ago. A young executive named Henry had parked his sleek sedan on the top floor of the car park. He was running late for a crucial meeting, and as he rushed toward the elevator, he noticed the valet standing by the entrance. "Sir," the Phantom Valet said, his voice a whisper carried by the wind. "Allow me to park your car." Henry hesitated. The valet's eyes bore into his, and for a moment, time seemed to stretch. Then, with a nod, Henry handed over the keys. The valet climbed into the driver's seat, maneuvering the car with a precision that defied the laws of physics. Henry watched, bewildered, as the sedan glided into an empty spot. "Thank you," Henry said, but the valet merely tipped his cap and vanished into thin air. From that day on, the legend grew. Drivers reported encounters with the Phantom Valet, always at twilight, always when they were in a hurry. Some claimed he guided them to the last available parking space, while others swore he led them in circles, trapping them within the car park's concrete embrace. But there was a catch: those who accepted the valet's services found themselves unable to leave. Their engines sputtered, and their tires spun fruitlessly. The car park became a maze, its levels shifting like a Rubik's Cube. Desperate drivers honked, shouted, and pounded their steering wheels, but the valet remained elusive. Henry, now an old man, returned to Verdun Drive one fateful night. His wife had passed away, and he sought solace in the familiar surroundings. As he stepped out of his car, he saw the Phantom Valet waiting by the elevator. "Sir," the valet said, his voice echoing through the empty levels. "It's been a long time." Henry nodded. "Why do you keep us here?" The valet's eyes held ancient sadness. "I died here, sir. A heart attack, right at this spot. My duty was to park cars, and so I continue. But I can't let anyone leave. Not until I find my own release." Henry understood. He sat in the driver's seat, gripping the wheel. "Take me with you," he said. "Help me find peace." The valet smiled, a wistful, otherworldly smile. "Perhaps, sir. But first, let me park your car." And so, the legend persisted. The Phantom Valet of Verdun Drive still roams the car park, guiding lost souls and offering them a choice: stay trapped or seek redemption. If you ever find yourself there, remember this tale. And if the valet approaches, consider your decision carefully, for sometimes, the line between life and afterlife blurs in the heart of the city. The second story is about the crying woman of Level 3. The riverside parking structure had always been a place of transience, where people came and went, leaving behind nothing but the echo of their footsteps. But Level 3 was different. It was a place where the echoes lingered, where the air felt heavier, and where the locals dared not park their cars. It was said that the third level was haunted by the spirit of a woman, known only as the Crying Woman of Level 3. Her story was a tragic one, woven into the very fabric of the parking structure. She had been a young bride, full of hope and love, waiting for her groom who promised to meet her there before eloping. But he never came, and her heartbreak was so profound that it transcended death itself. Every night, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the shadows grew long, her sobs could be heard throughout the structure. They were soft at first, like the whisper of the wind, but as the night deepened, they grew into a mournful wail that chilled the bones of anyone who heard them. One fateful evening, a man named Thomas found himself on level 3. His car, an old but reliable sedan, had broken down, and he had no choice but to park it there. As he stepped out of his vehicle, the silence of the night was shattered by the woman's cries. Curiosity overcame his fear, and he followed the sound to its source. There, in the dim light of a flickering lamp, he saw her. She was dressed in a gown that seemed to shimmer with an ethereal light, and her face was hidden behind a veil of tears. Thomas reached out to her, his heart filled with an inexplicable sorrow. "Why do you cry?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She looked up, and through her tears, he saw her eyes, eyes that held the pain of 1,000 lonely nights. "He left me," she said, her voice a haunting melody. "He promised to return, but he never did. And now, I wait for him, forever bound to this place." Thomas felt a pull in his chest, a desire to comfort her, to ease her suffering. "Let me help you," he said. But as he stepped closer, the air around him grew colder, and the woman's form began to fade. "You cannot help me," she replied. "For my love is lost, and my soul is trapped in this eternal weight." With a final sob, she disappeared, leaving Thomas alone with the echo of her cries. He left the parking structure that night, but the memory of the Crying Woman of Level 3 stayed with him, haunting his dreams and whispering to him of love lost and the ghosts that linger in the places we leave behind. To this day, the locals avoid Level 3 of the riverside parking structure. They say that if you listen closely, you can still hear her cries, a reminder of the heartache that can bind a spirit to this world. And sometimes, just sometimes, you might see a figure in white, waiting for a love that will never return. The third story is about the red handprint on the elevator door. At the heart of the city, nestled among towering buildings and forgotten alleyways, stood the old downtown parking lot. Its concrete walls bore the scars of time, cracks, graffiti, and the faded remnants of long-gone advertisements. But it was the elevator that held the darkest secret. The locals avoided it, whispering tales of its erratic behavior. Sometimes it would ascend to the top floor without a single button pressed. Other times, it would stall between levels, trapping passengers in its dimly lit metal cage. But the most chilling legend was etched into the elevator's very door, a red handprint that appeared overnight. Lucas, a night watchman, had heard the stories. He'd seen the handprint himself, an angry smear of crimson, as if someone had pressed their palm against the cold steel with desperate force. The print defied explanation. No amount of scrubbing could remove it, and it seemed to reappear whenever the moon was full. One moonlit night, Lucas decided to confront the mystery. Armed with a flashlight and a sense of dread, he stepped into the elevator. The doors closed, and the ascent began. The air grew colder, and the flickering light overhead cast eerie shadows on the walls. As the elevator reached the third floor, it shuddered to a halt. Lucas's heart raced. He pressed the emergency button, but the intercom remained silent. Then he noticed it, the red handprint, vivid against the dull gray surface. It seemed to pulse, as if the very metal held a heartbeat. "Who are you?" Lucas whispered, tracing the outline of the handprint. But there was no answer, only the distant sound of weeping. The elevator doors refused to open, and panic clawed at his throat. The handprint grew warmer, and Lucas felt a pressure on his shoulder. He turned, expecting to see another guard or a lost soul. Instead, he faced a woman, a specter in a tattered dress, her eyes swollen from tears. "You see it too," she said, her voice a fragile thread. "The handprint." Lucas nodded, unable to tear his gaze away. "Who are you?" "I was Emily," she replied. "A seamstress who worked in the building above. My lover, William, promised to meet me here. But he never came." "Why?" Lucas asked, his breath misting in the frigid air. "Betrayal," Emily whispered. "He left me waiting, and my heart shattered. I pressed my hand against the elevator door, willing him to return. But he never did." Lucas understood. The handprint was Emily's desperate plea, a mark of love and loss. She was bound to this place, her spirit unable to move on. And now, it seemed she sought companionship in the living. "Help me," Emily implored. "Find William. Tell him I forgive him." The elevator jolted, descending rapidly. Lucas stumbled as the doors opened, revealing the deserted parking lot. Emily stepped out, her form fading into mist. "Remember," she said, her voice echoing. "The handprint is a bridge between worlds. Find William, and perhaps both our souls can rest." Lucas watched her vanish, leaving only the lingering warmth of her touch. He vowed to uncover the truth, to find William and unravel the mystery of the red handprint. But as he stepped back into the elevator, he knew he was forever entwined in Emily's tale. And so, the old downtown lot held its secret, a spectral love, a desperate plea, and a red handprint that defied time. Lucas became its keeper, waiting for the next moonlit night when the elevator would ascend, and Emily's weeping would echo once more. These are just one of the many horror stories. There are many more out there, waiting to be discovered and told. Do you have any horror stories of your own? Share them in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more spooky content. Until next time, stay safe and stay curious. Bye.